So I was doing a little looking on Amazon and I stumbled across a couple of motherboards that I wanted to show you. This happens to be one of them. It is the Z690, and yes, I know it's a generation old, but this packs a huge punch. This was a high-end motherboard a year and a half, 2 years ago. The features on this are outstanding for the price that I paid and what you could pay. We're only talking about $200 to $250 for this high-end motherboard. So what I want to do is take this out of the box, show you what the features are and what you get in the box. This thing, I couldn't believe the price on it. This one may be an excellent choice for you. So let me get this out of the box. It's not going to be a full review of the motherboard. It's just going to be kind of an overlook of it. What are the features and what are the possibilities for hooking up what you can hook up to it. Don't go anywhere. Stay right there. So we just do a quick show and tell of the front of the box, and that's the back of the box. So it kind of goes over a little bit of the details on the back, but I did have a little damage right here. This is a brand new one. Now, I've found that Gigabyte, my last video for my 14th gen Gigabyte motherboard boxes, and apparently MSI, brand new, do not come sealed. So they don't have like that piece of tape on them. That's just something to kind of, I don't know. It's just something I noticed. Asus, I know Asus does. I don't particularly know how ASRock does it, but Asus, they're all sealed unless they've changed. Let's get it open. I just want to demonstrate this is sealed. It hasn't been opened. You can see the tape on it right there. And underneath, you get another box. And this is kind of cool. You can see that. That's kind of neat. This in particular motherboard is a non-RGB. So this is great for your blackout builds or something you just don't want it to be flashy. Excellent motherboard choice. What do we get? Oh, this is kind of cool. So this motherboard supports Corsair connectors. Well, in other words, it has one connector on the front of the motherboard that I'll point out later. And it has the RGB connector for Corsair system, if you're interested in that, or, you know. But of course, if this is a non-RGB motherboard, it's kind of all blacked out. I don't know why you would want everything else to be flashy, but nevertheless, it comes with a cable for that. We do get a extension cable for your what do you want to call it? The input output. So all your connectors, the I/O in the front, that's just to kind of extend the cable for your power button and all that. You can kind of route it to where you want. And we get a addressable RGB cables. You get two SATA cables. One is a 90-degree fitting, the other one is a straight. I have to back up, so that cable that I pulled out first was an RGB cable. This one is the one for Corsair. So I kind of just mixed those up. I kind of looked at it too quickly. But in here we get another, so we get 4 SATA cables in total, 2 90-degree and 2 straight fittings. We get a blacked out badge, which is kind of cool. And if you want to put that on your case or somewhere else, instead of a CD, they're giving you a USB with all your drives on it. So that's kind of nice. And we get some stickers. We also get an instruction, quick installation guide of putting your RAM and CPU in, and a thank you card with a QR code on it. And then you get some other stickers if you need to label any of your SATA cables or stuff like that. You can kind of label those, your RGB cables, where they go. I've never had to use those. I've never had a use for those, but it's nice that they include them. And here they do give you an antenna, because this does have Wi-Fi 6E. And in here, we got a few little treats. So these are all for your M.2s. Now this does have the quick release, or the easy latch, I think is what MSI calls it. But nevertheless, they're just a quick, so you don't have to use screws taking them in and out. Putting them in or taking them out. So they just come with those. There's quite a few of them. All right, let's turn our attention to the star of the show here. And look at that beauty. That does look pretty nice. And as we turn around, you can see the mostly covered, it's got a back plate on it. This also doubles as a heat sink because under here has some thermo pads on it to cool some of the chokes on the other side, which is really nice. Well, we might as well get this nice peel out of the way, shall we? Ah, look at the Dwagon. It's the Dwagon. It's got another one right here. Up top here, you have two standard 8-pin each for your ESP or your CPU power. So that's going to provide you power right there to CPU. Now you only need to put one connector in if you're not overclocking. Otherwise, you should occupy them both if you're going to do any kind of overclocking. As we come over here, you can see it says CPU fan 1. So if you're going to put a air cooler on here, then if it had only one fan, that's where that connector is going to hook up to. And if we come over one, you have your pump fan, and come over one more, you have system fan. Now, I don't see a CPU fan optional to where if you had two fans side by side. I am assuming that you could probably just put it on this pump fan and you should be okay. Nevertheless, we come out over here, you have your 2-digit debug LED readout, so that's pretty nice. You have another system fan, that's a total of 3 so far. You do have an addressable RGB. This connector, spin it around for you a little bit here. This is for the Corsair connector, so that's where you'd hook that one up. So if we come down here, this is a Sense connector, so you put this in for the ThermoSense connectors. I believe they came in the case, but I don't remember seeing them. So maybe you have to buy them separately for this, but that's where that would go. You also have your LED readouts for your boot sequence right here. And this is our standard 24-pin connector. So if we come down from our 24-pin connector, we have a Type-C internal connector. This is for the front of your board. This is a USB 3.2 Gen 2x2 connector, so that's pretty nice. Then we have two USB 3.0 ports. This goes to the front of your case. Going down a little further here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 SATA connectors. Now, one SATA connector will be disabled if you occupy all of the slots for the M.2s. I don't know if it's this one or this one, but one of the bottom two, I believe, will disable one of these, which I think it's SATA 7 is what they call it. Even though there's 6 in here, I think they label them a little bit differently. So as we go along the bottom here, this is where your front panel connector would go. And that's your power button and your reset switch, your power LED, and so forth. We do have a push button for a reset or power if you're doing some overclocking and you need to be in the system to reboot it. You can do it from there. We do have this that comes with a dual BIOS switch right here. So if one is malfunctioning or you have like an overclock setting on one BIOS and a normal on the other, you can switch between the two. We also have two USB 2.0 port internal connectors here, usually for like pump headers and so forth, stuff like that. We have another fan. See, this can't really see it, but that is another fan connector right there. That is a 3-pin, and then we have 3 other 4-pin connectors right there. Okay, so this one right here is actually a water flow connector. I had to lift it up. I thought it was just a 3-pin, which was kind of funny. So it's a water flow connector. You can connect up to that. And we have 2 more, one addressable RGB and one 12-volt RGB. And then you have your audio connector right there. As we move up on the board here now, we can see we have 1, 2, 3 PCIe slots. The first 2 right here are reinforced and they are both 5.0. Now if you put your graphics card in here, both of these go directly to the CPU, by the way. But if you put your graphics card up here, it's going to run by 16. If you put it in down here, it's going to run by 8, and it's also going to force this top one to a by 8 only. If you're running 2 graphics cards, they are both going to be running by 8. And this one down here is a Gen 3 by 4. So this is a PCIe Gen 3 by 4 only. Up here we can see we have an M.2 cover up here. All of these, there's, well, I shouldn't say all of them, but there's 4 that are 4.0 and one of them that's 3.0. So your topmost is going to be for your M.2, and that is the one that's directly connected to the CPU. That's where you would put your boot drive, and that one's going to be a Gen 4. This one right here is going to be a Gen 4. This one right here is going to be a Gen 4. And this one right here, I believe, is a Gen 4, and the one over here is going to be a Gen 3. So you get 4 Gen 4s and 1 Gen 3. No Gen 5 in or on this motherboard. Okay, so we can now see visually where we can put this. These are all pretty much full length SSDs. This one, actually, you can put in an extra long one. I've never even really seen one, to be honest, but I know they exist. And down here, you can see that they're split into 2 different areas. So you just got to determine which one is the 3.0 and go from there. You can also see that they have these little quick latches right here, so you can just put your SSD in there or your M.2, and they just need to be turned ever so slightly just to lock them into place. Also, you can find your BIOS battery in here, and you're gonna have to take the cover off that covers this M.2 to access that, FYI. All right, now if we focus our attention to the I/O in the back, we can see that we have a BIOS flash button right here. We have a clear CMOS button, which is pretty handy. There's where you would put your BIOS flash drive in if you were updating it, and you can put it in there to flash it. We have a regular USB 2.0 here. Here's a PS2 connector for a mouse or keyboard for your overclocking needs. Sometimes that's, I guess, nice to have. We have a 20 gigabit per second USB-C port right here. We have a 10 gigabit right next to it. Dual 2.5 gigabit Ethernet ports. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so 7 in total, 10 gigabits per second USB ports that are Type A only. There's our Wi-Fi 6E sticking out there. Then we also have an optical, which I've never used for the sound. And your regular audio is all in here. No, I'm sorry, guys. We forgot to do the little peely peel on the side here, so here we go. Doesn't that just look so much better? So one thing about this motherboard that you do need to know is that you will need a graphics card. Even if you have a CPU that has integrated graphics, you can see that there's no outputs right here, which means you don't have HDMI or DisplayPort or the USB out, so like Thunderbolt or anything like that. You do not have it right there. Does not support it. So you have to have a graphics card, even if your CPU has integrated graphics. Just telling you. All right, so you can see right here on Amazon, it is $249.99, $250. And if you take the URL up at the top here, if you copy this whole entire thing all up in here, this entire, that's called the URL, right? So if you copy that and you take it and you go over to another website, it's called Camel. And you paste, you go right here to the top where it has a little search bar, and you paste. In other words, you copy it from Amazon, the URL, you paste it right into there. It's going to display, this is for Amazon only, but it'll display the motherboard that we have. You can see it says $249.99. And if we scroll down, then we can also see the price trend. So this started out at $470 or $480 to be exact. And you can see the price trend just kept dropping and dropping, and now it's been as cheap as $225. So look at that. But we can see who's been selling it and all that, and it's just kind of a neat little website to check out for yourself. You can actually see the price trends of stuff when they go on sale. So it's just something I kind of wanted to let you know about. Well, I really like the design of this board, the dragon, and just the way it's all blacked out like this. This will look really nice in just a system with no RGB or anything going on. The only thing you're going to see is these boot LEDs, I believe, and the diagnostic code reader. And that should be about it. I don't believe that these buttons at the bottom light up. I could be wrong, but it'll take one of those times to actually, hook this up and test it out, which I will be doing shortly. But I just wanted to let you guys know about some deals that are going on that you can still get an amazing system, and particularly the motherboard. That's sometimes one of the more difficult things to buy if you don't know what you're getting. But this thing, I wouldn't hesitate to get one of these. So, and you still have that Amazon 30-day return policy. If you don't like it or there's something wrong with it, you just let them know and away it goes, and get your money back or have them exchange it for the same one or something like that. So, but anyway, that's what you get for this. It's really nice. So that's going to do it for me. I'm going to wrap this thing up. If you enjoyed it, leave a comment down below, hit that thumbs up button, share, and consider subscribing if you have not subscribed yet. And I will also leave a link down below in the description if you want to go ahead and check this out for yourself. Maybe you want to pick one up. But anyway, that's going to do it for me. Until next time, take care.